Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Generally, people have different of opinions about astrology. Astrology means it's a study of stars and the sky. Depending upon the stars' movements, the astrologer used to say the present, future, and past of the person. At the same time, astrology not only based on foretelling the future, present, past tense, astrology is mainly based with astronomy. Even mathematics is most important for calculating astrological calculations. In this way, some people used to believe astrology, some people may not believe it because of their personal views. Whatever it may be, astrology, if he who knows well, thorough, it may works exactly, accurately. Nowadays, everywhere we can see astrologers. Each and everyone who reads a book and becomes astrologer. No proper training from ancestral practice. That's why nowadays astrology has become a superstitious one. But we have to feel bad of converting like this. Jyotisha Shastra, it is one of the Shastra. Shastras always say the truth. They depend upon the Satya. Because of some ignorance, because of some ignorant people, it misled. Okay. However, we used to say our astrologers are already predicted present, future, past. Everybody knows astrology means generally they used to say it is from India. Only Indian people used to predict like this and all. Most of them know or not, I don't know. It's wrong. Whatever the science or Shastra is not meant for one country. It is universal subject, universal system. In this way, we can feel proud of one of the French astrologer, philosopher named Nostradamus. Tell me for now, astrology only belongs to India? No. Even French astrologer Nostradamus, whom they consider a physician and reputed seer, he calculated and predicted so many things which had happened in real. When we can pursue his history, then we can get a lot of information about the foretelling subjects of Nostradamus. Even he had a book written by himself, Les Prophéties. Really, it is a collection of 942 poetic quatrains. It was published in 1555. That means in that 1555 onwards, on the day itself, he predicted each and every prediction went on true. For example, he predicted about World War I, II, and assassination of John F. Kennedy. Even some used to say Indira Gandhi assassination also he predicted. Even in the entire world, predictions made by Nostradamus in his early stage itself. That's we have to feel proud. So today I bring to your notice that we have to know the worth of Nostradamus, who is French astrologer. In this way, we can have a view upon not only Nostradamus, even about astrology. ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां हयग्रीवमुपास्महे. Nostradamus was a French astrologer, physician, and reputed seer, who is best known for his work called Les Prophéties, a collection of 942 poetic quatrains. Mean each stanza had 4 lines. 4-line stanza is called quatrains. Allegedly predicting future events, the book was first published in the year 1555. Nostradamus' family was originally Jewish but had converted to Catholic Christianity before he was born. That means he may not know, he might not know, he did not know. He studied at the University of Avignon, but was forced to learn after just over a year when the university closed due to an outbreak of the plague, a disease. He worked as an apothecary, one of the pharmacists, for several years before entering the University of Montpellier, hoping to earn a doctorate, but was almost immediately expelled after his work as an apothecary, a manual trade forbidden by university states, was discovered. He first married in the year 1531, but his wife and 2 children died in 1534 during another plague outbreak. He fought alongside doctors against the plague before remarrying to Anne Ponsardi, with whom he had 6 children. He wrote an almanac for 1550 and as a result of its success continued writing them for future years as he began working as an astrologer for various wealthy patrons. Catherine de Medici became one of his foremost supporters. His Les Prophéties, published in the year 1555, and relied heavily on historical and literary precedent and initially received mixed reception. He stuffed in the subject deeply. Once he suffered from several gout toward the end of his life, which eventually developed into edema. He died on 2nd July 1566. Many popular authors have retold imaginative legends about his life. In the years since the publication of his Les Prophéties, Nostradamus has attracted many supporters who, along with much of the popular press, credit him with have accurately predicted many major world events. Not an ordinary. Most academic sources reject the notion that Nostradamus had any genuine supernatural prophetic abilities and maintain that the association made between world events and also Nostradamus' quatrains are the result of misinterpretations or mistranslating or misunderstanding. The academics argue that Nostradamus' predictions are characteristically vague, meaning they could be applied to virtually anything and are useless for determining whether their author had any real prophetic powers. They also point out that English translations of his quatrains are almost always of extremely poor quality based on later manuscripts produced by authors with little knowledge of 16th century French and often deliberately mistranslated to make the prophecies fit whatever events the translator believed they were supposed to have predicted. Let us see Prophet Nostradamus' childhood. Nostradamus' childhood is peculiar. He claimed birthplace before its recent renovation. Municipal plague on the claimed birthplace of Nostradamus in Saint-Remy, France, describing as an astrologer and giving his birth date as 14th December 1503. During youth, at the age of 14, Nostradamus entered the University of Avignon to study for his IB. IB study mean? IB mean International Baccalaureate. After little more than a year, he was forced to leave Avignon when the university closed its doors during an outbreak of the plague. After leaving Avignon, Nostradamus, by his own account, traveled the countryside for 80 years from 1521 researching herbal remedies. In the year 1529, after some years as an apothecary, he entered the University of Montpellier to study for a doctorate in medicine. He was expelled shortly afterwards by the student procurator Rondelet when it was discovered that he had been slandering doctors. The expulsion document, Montpellier Register S2 Folio 87, still exists in the faculty library even today. However, some of the publishers of his own and correspondents would later call him doctor. After his expulsion, Nostradamus continued working, presumably still as an apothecary, and became famous for creating a rose pill that purportedly protected against the plague. What does Nostradamus reveal to us for 2020? From economic crisis, stock market crash, aberrant social political slippages to dramatic degradation of people's action and feelings. From a geoclimatic point of view, the need to purify the rebalance of the earth will lead to hurricanes, floods, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, etc. Nostradamus considered that in 2020 a new era will begin both in terms of calendar but also realistically. The year 2020 marks a sacred moment, favorable and the same time dangerous in the history of mankind, meant to bring both disasters and revelations. What now Corona is already predicted by Nostradamus in the 15th century itself. And the preceding years herald this terrible yet wonderful potential. The critical year 2020 does not necessarily mean an end, but rather a fundamental transformation of the world we live in, a rebirth of humankind on a new spiritual. Major Nostradamus prophecies for 2020. Let us see. The outbreak of the Third World War, the latent of conflict between NATO and Russia, the exchange of words between Donald Trump and North Korea, but also the fact that in the year 2020, the US will start the greatest military exercise in Asia, made a lot of people think of Nostradamus' predictions. Most Nostradamus' cryptic messages seem to predict death and destruction. According to his prophecies, a 27 years devastating war will outbreak between two great world superpowers after the running of the third Antichrist. A plague was predicted by Nostradamus, French preacher, and also he says in Centuria 2nd Lane 53 that a serious illness will attack a maritime city. The epidemic will spread to many countries around the world and people will no longer be able to travel. The great plague of the city will not cease until there be avenged the death of a just blood condemned for a price without crime, of the great lady outraged by pretense. Brothers and sisters captive in diverse places. Vladimir Putin will be assassinated and Donald Trump will suffer from mysterious disease. These are all predictions given by Nostradamus. Nostradamus predicted a very violent year both for the Russian President Vladimir Putin and for the American President Donald Trump. According to experts, Nostradamus warned about the assassination attempt of Vladimir Putin, an armed conflict in the Middle East, and about the renewed relationship with his American counterpart between 2020 and 2021. The Russian President Vladimir Putin will suffer an assassination attempt by his security team. This is one of his predictions. According to Nostradamus' prediction for 2020, we are the verge of an imminent market crash. The short-term but powerful fall of the best-known American stock index at the beginning of this year has caused global effects, determining many people to think of a new crisis. While some analysts insist that we are not witnessing another bubble that is about to burst like in 2008. Other experts think that the economic chaos is lurking right around the corner. In such a way, we can see so many things about Nostradamus. Even in the year 2020, England will have a new king. The Queen's death will be one of the most perturbing events in Great Britain from the past 70 years. Since her coronation in the year 1952, Queen Elizabeth II has lived long enough to meet 13 prime ministers of Great Britain and 13 presidents of the USA. Prince Charles will take the throne of Great Britain. He will then visit Scotland and Wales shortly after the death of the Queen. A new Pope in the Catholic Church, it is believed that Nostradamus referred to Pope Francis in quatrains. But the French prophet predicted the death of the Pope in year 2020. Pope Francis' successor will be a young man who will obtain a high position in the year 2020. In the final persecution of the Holy Roman Church, there will reign Peter the Roman, who will feed his flock amid many tribulations, after which the seven-hilled city will be destroyed and the dreadful judge will judge the people. There will be hurricanes. And Vancouver, Canada. The Europeans and Americans will face the immigrant issue, and the terrorist attacks will be increasingly higher. Nostradamus' prophecies based on 2 millennia of the very meticulous astronomical observations suggest that the year 2020 will mark the debut of a new era accompanied, like any birth, by blood and new hopes. Since 1940, and especially after 2003, the sun behaves more turnabout than ever since the global warming that ended the last global or glacial era 11,000 years ago. The solar physics confirm that the next maximum point of such activity at a record level will occur in 2020. The solar storms have a correspondent in those that occur on Earth. Katrina, Rita, and Wilma hurricanes from 2005 coincided with one of stormiest weeks of the Sun's documents history. The terrestrial magnetic field, our shield against dangerous solar radiations, and also started to awaken fissures the size of California occurring here and there, a reversal of the Earth's magnetic poles, during which the protection reaches almost zero in likely to occur form. Nostradamus predicted the Notre Dame fire. The dreadful Notre Dame fire in Paris on Monday, 15th April at 5:50 p.m. local time was predicted by the Nostradamus, a quatrain written 500 years ago by the French astrologer anticipated it. His predictions were published in the year 1555 based on some quatrains written by him in 942. He is the one who predicted the age great fire and in London, from London in the year 1666. The French Revolutionary from 1789, Napoleon and Hitler's movements, JFK's assassination, and even the 9/11/2000 events also he already predicted. Who? Nostradamus. Predicting a bloody century for many interpreters of Nostradamus' bells, the text is full of prophecy regarding extremely violent contemporary events, from the rising of Hitler to power to the assassination of both John F. Kennedy and his little brother Robert. In Germany, people strongly believed in the sayings regarding to the third reach. Actually, both in England and in Germany, they falsified a services or series of quatrains, thus mankind them more favorable to their cause, and throw them from an airplane as means of propaganda. On the other hand, one of these authentic quatrains was considered by many to be the foreteller of the war. A live fire and death hidden in glosses will be horribly unleashed. By nightfall, the enemy forces will obliterate the entire city. The interest manifested towards the Renaissance prophet was also reborn following the dramatic events in Iran when the Shah was banished by the failure of Ayatollah Khomeini, who had been previously exiled in France. According to a translation, Nostradamus had wrong. It is a kind of predictions given every now and then by him. A belief too strong will betray the monarch. How did Nostradamus die? Nostradamus announced his own death. One of the biggest poets in France, pure the Romance, wrote about his contemporary. Like an antique oracle, for many years he predicted a large part of our destiny. Obviously, the prophet dwelled in the respect of the royal family and increasing fame up until his death in the year 1566. Nostradamus even predicted his own death. Beside the bench and bed, I will be found dead. After he announced one evening that he will not survive the night, he died due to a gout episode on July 22nd, 1566, at his age of 62 years, and was found dead the following morning in his bedroom next to his work table. Say, Nostradamus, the 21st century and beyond, any discussion of Nostradamus predictions about our future has to deal to some extent with what appear to be doomsday forecasts and the coming up of the third Antichrist. That is too much part of the Nostradamus saga, but only a part. He had also a lot to say about the glorious golden days that lie before us. However, the one prediction that preoccupies most Nostradamus scholars to the point of obsession and chills some to the bone. In the war year 1999, 7 words or 7 months from the sky will come with great king of terror. What a prediction given by him. He will bring to life the great king of the Mongols. Before and after war reigns happily. Most experts have interpreted this famous quatrain as the prophet's vision of an architect. To Nostradamus and his was poraries, or contemporaries, the Antichrist was definitely a real person who possessed extraordinary even powers. In the late 20th century, the concept of Antichrist and evil included people, political power, or morally likely terrorist movements. In other words, the Antichrist must be something intangible rather than a flesh and blood devil incarnate. Also, the people of the Middle Ages, the Antichrist was more likely to be a non-Christian who opposed the power of the church. Nostradamus, the 20th century and beyond were prime candidates. For example, that's why some experts conclude that Nostradamus was talking about a real person, probably a Middle Eastern warlord, and then he can foretell the coming of the final third Antichrist. One thing is certain, it contains one of the Nostradamus' most precise dates. It is one of only 17 out of hundreds of his quatrains in specific year for an upcoming event. Since we are still here it's easy to dispute those who argue that this quatrain was Nostradamus' prediction that the world would be in the year 1999. He was talking more about the change of millennium, which to people of his day was highly symbolic and superstitious event. And while he did predict war, what's often overlooked is that Nostradamus says it will occur both before and after the coming of the kings and the Mongols. So obviously he did not foresee this is end of the world. Besides, there will all be his other predictions, in which Nostradamus foretells a future of peace and joy for humankind that lasts for thousands of years. Last but not least, thus Nostradamus, a good astrologer and foreteller who predicted perfectly through his vision. Such Nostradamus history now we heard, I think we learned. Stay Kantaya Kalyana Nide Nidedram Sri Venkatnivasaya Srinivasaya Mangalam Mangala Sahasranavaya Madhacharya Prabhu Sarvaicha Urvairacharya Satruta Ajastu Mangalam.